bit of this, a little bit of that. Oh. And I think I need to adjust this a little bit, just a little, and there we go. Hi there. Welcome back, everyone, once again to Cast Iron Wednesday. As we know, and as I say every week, every Wednesday, there goes a piece. Every Wednesday, a number of cooking channels here on YouTube, they get together and do a video with cooking and cast iron. And I've been one of those channels, and we've been enjoying ourselves now. Good grief, would you believe it's almost been a year now since I started doing this thing? Boy, I can't believe it either. As I mentioned in the comments already, I am running a little bit behind, largely because I do work, unfortunately, a full-time job. And of course, tonight happened to be one of those commutes home that took a lot longer than expected. So I'm running about half an hour behind here. Nonetheless, I figured, well, we might as well just go live and talk anyway. Yeah, because right now I'm just busy cutting up sweet potatoes or yams. If somebody can tell me the difference, then I would be I would very much appreciate it. One thing I think you notice is that I am actually using this cleaver on these tubers here, because I find that the heavy cleaver makes me feel a lot safer when cutting up these very tough roots here. And so as a result, I use this especially for chopping things like sweet potatoes or yams, squash, pumpkin, that kind of thing. So, and we've got just about a pound of sweet potatoes here. Got a pound of potatoes as well. In this case, I ended up getting red potatoes because they were on sale. So the taste of that should be interesting. And then finally, I've got some chicken breasts to cut up. So there we go. The cleaver, by the way, for the record, what is this? Oh, yeah, that's right. And this is an old Hickory Cleaver. I found this one at a gun sale of all things. The guy selling it had no idea how old this one is, and I'm not too sure myself. It does have a Made in USA mark on it, which may suggest, well, anytime after the 1960s, I know. But I'm not sure if knife dating is quite the same as cast iron dating. Nonetheless, so far I've gotten a lot of use out of this thing because, yeah, I do like doing potato, as I said, heavy roots and tubers and stuff in this thing here. Anyway, as always, hello everybody to Jimmy Langford and Andrew Bonificio, William Hurt, and Jeffrey Boyle. And yes, you're right, I should wash this thing off right away. Carbon steel, it can rust or get stained especially. So there we go. Yeah, I fell in love with carbon steel when I first heard about it because of its similarity to cast iron in regards to the upkeep that's necessary on this. You have to keep these things cleaned, and you have to regularly sharpen and oil them, which is why that's one thing I like doing here. Got a chamois that I've put so much mineral oil in that really all I have to do is rub this thing down to give it a nice coating. And bam, we're done. That sure wasn't so hard. So let me get that out of the way. All right, that's nice and safe. And clean. Where did that thing go? There it is. Clean off the rest of these little doobies. I gotta try to keep this workspace clean. And then the next thing is, we've got some sweet potatoes here. And things like that are why I love having a sharp knife, because you can do stuff like that and cut these things pretty easily. As long as they don't go all over the place, of course, that is. Another bowl. Where the heck is my bowls? As I said, I'm running about half an hour behind here. So again, as always, I appreciate everybody's patience with this. Nonetheless, here is some cast iron. We're heating up the Lodge cast iron, enameled cast iron Dutch oven tonight, so that we can do a lot of tomatoes and the like. As we make, as I mentioned, we are making peanut butter chicken tonight, and yeah, as the saying goes, yeah, there's an interesting story behind that. Like specific. Hold on, before I do, what do we have for comments here? I was talking about the drop tuber. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Just listening in my shop tonight. What's up? Hey, what do you do in your shop? Good question. Hello. Papa Dan says hello, Jamie, and everybody else, including William Hurt, Peg, Bookworm, etc. Hi, and Jamie says hi. All right. Yeah, she's been trying to stay out of the heat and hasn't been having much luck, unfortunately. The actual cool day this week. Yeah, this is probably the coolest day we've had this week, in that we're only at about the 80s or so. Oh well, it is August, and that's one thing is that, well, as it turns out, I've found out that I am actually going on a road trip this weekend, and this is not going to be a work road trip. Yay! So that means um, to, I'm going to be out of the house for a few days, and me trying to be a decent person, I guess. Jamie's going to be here for a few days, and while she certainly can cook up a storm, you've seen her do that, I saw no reason why I couldn't just put together a nice pot of food for her to dip into whenever she wants or whenever she has friends over. She asked me to do the groundnut stew or the peanut butter chicken, and that's why we are doing this tonight. And I have no objections to that because I love that dish myself. It's an African dish, and it is very cheap and easy to make, except for all this chopping. And it's also not expensive either. I mean, probably the most expensive part of it would probably be the chicken itself, especially since in this case we're using chicken breasts. However, I actually managed to find bone-in chicken breasts for 88 cents a pound at Price Chopper tonight, which is very surprising for chicken breasts. So I couldn't resist that, and that means we've got quite a few of them. I got a 5-pound pack, but I'm not going to, of course, cook up 5 pounds of chicken breasts in this pot. There will be plenty left over yet for Jamie to do what she wants with, even if that means just sticking them in the freezer if she feels like it. Oh, yes, absolutely. That's the first thing I said. You can cook up a storm. We've seen you do it, so anyway. Yeah. I'll live on Nutella and tortillas and cocoa pebbles. You're going to live on Nutella and tortillas and cocoa pebbles. Like I do now anyway. Okay, well, even so, I can get you some more shredded cheese, and you can make some of those kind of tortillas. Quesadillas, which is another thing you like, but there we go. All right, this stuff is almost done, which means I've got to take a moment and get out to the chicken. And then while we're doing that, I'll turn to the subject that we're here for tonight, and that would be cast iron. So give me 1 second to get some chicken. Oops, I forgot. I've still been, sorry, I forgot. Somehow, there we go. That's a little better. Let me turn the subject again. Once again, let me get these chicken breasts. I'll be right back. Move this out of this way here. Got these things at 88 cents a pound, so I'm certainly not objecting to that. This is so big that I might even only need to do one of them. Well, I don't know. Once I take the bones off and everything, maybe 2 should be more than sufficient there. So the rest of this, let me stick in the fridge. Then I will properly package it a little later. That's a little better. Sorry for the delay. The fridge would not close. Gotta get up my chicken board, of course. And yes, I will wash the other board after we're done here. That's why these chicken breasts are the last things to do. All right. Also, yeah, okay, I think I'll talk a little bit about chicken because these are the things that always come up. No, I'm intentionally not washing off the chicken. Why? Because you don't have to. Because after all, it is going to be cooking up in a very hot cast iron pan, and really that is going to sterilize the chicken rather than washing it off and thereby spreading any of those chicken germs that everybody talks about all over the sink and all over the kitchen. And yes, I'll be washing my hands as well. So as such, yeah, I do subscribe to the theory that no, you don't have to wash your chicken. So I'm not especially worried about that. I've made it this far. Well, what can I say? My cooking hasn't killed me yet, or anybody else, and I have no intention of starting tonight. Let's get this out of the way here. Nice and careful here. And at this rate, I might very well be able to get this in the pot in just a few minutes, which is good. It's another reason why I got the chicken out last. Save this little part here. Never mind you. Oh, whatever. It's probably not worth, trying to struggle with this. So we've got one nice big chicken breast here. Here comes the second one. Let's see. I'm sure there are comments on this already. I wash all my poultry and meats. It's just a mental thing. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to dictate anybody else on what they do in their kitchen. So that's as long as good on my phone. I'm driving and listening to the radio. Oh, I'm on the radio. Well, thank you. I guess that's an honor in itself, of course. Why isn't this thing going right? Oh, it's all going to be cut up anyway. Let me just cut it up. Let's cut it through this way, and let's take off the rest of it. I like these huge chicken breasts they sell at the supermarket. Obviously they go a long way. And I am not interested in any arguments over things like, oh, free-range chicken, or is that an organic chicken? Well, yeah, it's an organic chicken. After all, it was living and it has organs. So, as such, I do not have any problem with that. As I said, that's the type of subject I will gladly argue about in the comments, but not here live. Thank you very much. Because as I just mentioned, my cooking has not killed anyone yet, nor do I intend it to. Having said that, let's get back to the subject. As I mentioned already, I'm going on a road trip this weekend, and that means I've decided I would go to some places I have never been before, and there's plenty of those. Not the least of which, as I found out, this week is a huge antique show up near Syracuse, New York. One that apparently at its climax on Saturday. Let me throw this in a bag so that I can get rid of these things immediately. Excuse me. There we go. And yeah, these things are going to go out immediately. No arguments there. Right. Now, as I was saying, there is a huge antique show taking place this week in Syracuse. Antique Week. And oh my God, I must be tired tonight. I've already forgotten the name of the town, but I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody there who's been to Antique Week and they would know.
I think you messaged me, but hold on, I'll check.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, actually, only did the
Okay. Okay, but anyway, as I mentioned, at its peak, apparently it's going to be just about the size of Brimfield. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I may have missed out on the summer Brimfield, but I figure this should help make up for it. Oh, and by the way, Brimfield in fall here in Massachusetts is only in another 2 weeks. So yeah, as far as cast iron treasure hunting is concerned, I'm psyched. Anyway, yeah, my plan is to head out there. I'm going to head out on Friday evening, be there on Saturday, and spend the day indulging and browsing all of the cast iron. And I'm sure I have no doubt whatsoever there will be some of it, because I'm betting as well some of the vendors there were probably making their rounds across the country and will be at Brimfield too in a couple of weeks. So although on the other hand, I'm more interested in doing the individual scores. What are we saying here? We're having big thunderstorm pop-out down, which may be interfering. Audio goes off and picture freezes. Well, best of luck, I think. Anyone know what to think about using a cast iron skillet to cook tomato sauce? You can do it, but the pan should be well seasoned, because tomato sauce can indeed do a thing in your cast iron skillet. It can definitely wear down the seasoning very quickly. So that you should cook it quickly and immediately get it out of the pan when it's done cooking. Otherwise, if it sits in the pan, it will most definitely eat through the seasoning on the pan and possibly even cause a little bit of rusting. So, however, as I said, if you have a well-seasoned cast iron pan, yes, you can do that at least once in a while. And the chicken is just about cut at this point. I mean, all I need are large pieces for this, so it's not like I have to dice it. And there we go. Bam. Now that we've done that, of course, got to clean up. And then finally get to cook. So thank you again, everybody, for waiting. Wash my hands here. There we go. I'm trying to be quick, but not too quick, because obviously accidents happen and I do not want to be one of them. I've had more than enough of them. But there we go at last. And in fact, on top of that, lay down another couple of paper towels here. And with that, I do believe we are ready. There we go. Madison Bouckville, if I'm pronouncing it right, Antique Week. Look it up on really on Google, or actually all you have to do is look up Syracuse Antique Week on Google, and you will definitely find it. Part of the chicken you put into a bag can be boiled in water to make chicken broth. Yes, it can. I have no arguments there. It's only that it's late tonight, and I have to be honest, I'm very tired. So I could always just throw that in the fridge nonetheless. Okay, are you talking about the one in Madison, New York? Yes, I am. That one, in fact, is taking place this week. And the biggest day will be on Saturday, and that's what I hope to be there to find out, to take part. And I am most definitely looking forward to it, which I guess comes down again to the subject that I mentioned already, and that is the hunt. Yeah, I was not thrilled when I missed out on Brimfield, and that's why I'm so psyched about being able to go on an antiquing trip for the next several days, beginning on Friday. As I mentioned, I'm going to start out there at Madison Antique Week on Saturday, And then I'm going to head over towards the Buffalo area because there is a huge Sunday flea market just south of Buffalo that I will browse on Sunday. After that, I'm going to head more towards the south and head towards a road that I haven't traveled in a couple of years, and I'm looking forward to it, and that would be Route 17. Folks in New York probably know Route 17 because it does have quite a few interesting sites in it, and I'm really looking forward to traveling that road. From there, I will make my way back. Well, while I'm waiting, hey, how about this? I think it's about time to start cooking, isn't it? Because, as I mentioned, we are making groundnut stew. So let's continue there. And I bet I didn't even get my... Okay. Okay, I've got all of these things. Of course, I forgot my spices. Well, I will work on that. But right now, first things first. Let's throw some oil in and get started. But yes, those of us who actually go out of our way to search for vintage cast iron, both as users and as collectors, I try to be more of a user, even though I do have, unfortunately, a couple of collectors in my collection, or just having a collection in itself, know very well that hunting for vintage cast iron really is a hobby in itself. Oh, one last thing. Better turn on the fan here. At last. Hunting for vintage cast iron really is a hobby in itself, as anybody here knows. I mean, if you're not careful, you could end up becoming a hoarder and have a whole house full of rusty, or better yet, restored cast iron pieces. But nonetheless, as long as you get some use out of it, well, that is certainly what makes it worth it. Because cast iron, as we know, I mean, what can we say? It's like is different from a lot of other fine kitchen pieces because people do want to cook in the best cooking vessels that they possibly can. And when it comes to cast iron, you can often find the best pieces at junk yards, at flea markets, or even at antique malls or antique fairs like we are seeing this week. And there we go. Starting out by browning ourselves up some chicken here. Got maybe about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of chicken. As I mentioned, because this is especially for Jamie, I'm doing white meat. You can really use any pieces at all you want with this dish. I like using chicken thighs myself. Those are my favorite parts of the chicken. But as I said, I'm going to be away for a few days. This is why I'm cooking this, especially for her. Always on the hunt. Yeah, that's the other thing. You never know when you are going to make yourself a good score. I have been fortunate enough, quite a few of the pieces in my kitchen I have indeed discovered at Brimfield. A lot of them, I'm proud to say, I managed to get a fairly good deal on them, or at least I think so, because here's the thing. At places like the Madison Antique Week or Brimfield, as everybody knows, there are several vendors there who go there especially to sell cast iron, in which they put out their booths and their tables and everything and line them with dozens and dozens of absolutely amazing, restored, they look like pristine cast iron pans. Pretty much, the brands that they display. Griswold, Wagner, Griswold, Wagner, Griswold, Wagner, the occasional hammered pan. You get the idea. Because, of course, they go for the hot names. And especially because they sell those things at incredibly inflated prices. I mean, if you want to pay, like, say, for instance, $95 or so for a large logo Griswold number 4, there's a good chance you will find it at an antique fair like this. On the other hand, A lot of the fun of this is looking around and finding other kinds of bargains, and they are there because, I mean, places like this, they have hundreds, if not thousands, of vendors, including a lot of smaller ma and pa folks who came there to set up a tent and sell their own wares. And a lot of times, there may very well be a rusty pile of cast iron that they may or may not know what they've got there. And I'm not saying that you're ripping the dealer off, but rather, that's how the hunt goes. If you're lucky, you can indeed get yourself a good score. Some of the pieces I could think of finding there at Brimfield, I found a BSR 2-quart sauce pot with a lid, and I paid $10 for it. Another time, my Griswold Dutch oven, which I've used in several of these videos, I found that at Brimfield, and I paid $10 for it. It's a large logo Griswold number 8 Dutch oven, and I paid $10. That's because I found it at the bottom of a big rusty pile of junk. It had a lot of rust on it, and it did indeed take a lot of work and electrolysis, probably for several days, I think, before I was able to clean it up and get it into working condition. But as you see, it did. And so as a result, instead of paying like $100 or $150 or $200, I managed to get a Griswold Dutch oven for $10. So you never know. Of course, you've got to be willing, naturally, as I said, to dig through all kinds of piles of junk if you're not careful. Well, who knows what you could find. Also, of course, it's also true that you can search for a long time and you may not actually find anything that you would really want for yourself. But then again, that's how the hunt goes. As he said, you never know when you're always on the hunt. You never know when you're going to find a decent score. Just last week, for instance, Jamie again found just happened to come across our neighbor throwing away 2 old rusty cast iron pans, and he gave them to her for free. One of them was a modern 12-inch emerald cast iron skillet, but the other was a number 7 vintage favorite, and she got it for free. And that one is soaking in the lye tank right now. I put it in the lye tank last week. I'm expecting to have it in there for at least a month or so. Yes, it is, but you will like what it looks like when it comes out of there. Will you be strictly cast iron or antiques in general? No, actually, it is like antiques in general because there are other things that do appeal to me. Although, again, I try not to be a hoarder. However, I have managed to find some other really nice vintage pieces that I've definitely liked, including. Also at Brimfield, I paid $20 for that one. A K-bar chef knife, a full 10-inch chef knife with the K-bar logo on it, which a lot of people I knew found very surprising. They didn't think K-bar made chef's knives. But nonetheless, yes, a number of the other pieces in my kitchen here, but in addition to the cast iron, are actually vintage pieces. And I am indeed interested in antiques of that kind. Because again, you never know what you're going to find. I do have a very small apartment right now, and I am right now looking for a larger one in the hope that I can get a better, more room to be able to display stuff and really just live. But nonetheless, a lot of it, if I can find antiques to decorate it, I would certainly be interested in that. William Hurt found a Griswold number 9 for $10 at a yard sale. So there you go. That's what I mean. You never know what you're going to find there on the hunt. So good deals on any cast. As I said, I'm positive even at places like that, it may still take some looking, but you can find a piece that you can afford, regardless of what your budget is, even if you're going there on a low budget, which I have tried to do at these places. Couple of times I have splurged, yes. I mean, in particular, it was also at Brimfield that I found that 15-gallon cast iron cauldron that I'm so proud of. And yet it was still at a price that I could afford. And I knew that if I didn't get it, I would be kicking myself for the rest of my life. And so I made the investment, and as a result, I'm the proud owner of a vintage 19th century cauldron. I'm sorry? Yeah, pretty much. That's once in a lifetime. As I said, I knew I would be kicking myself for the rest of my life. So, yeah, I do not regret getting that. It's different for everyone and anybody. I'm sure a number of the folks here have also managed to make a good score, and please feel free to post something about it because, as I said, I'm interested in hearing how you've done as well. So, sweet, that was a good deal. And while we're doing that, it looks like this chicken, well, is, of course, it's nowhere near thoroughly cooked, but it looks like we're getting to the point where we can remove it and start with the other stuff. So, let's get that out of the way right now. Oh, yeah. Enamel cast iron pot. Never use metal utensils. So, let's get these things out of the way. At least, there we go. Still seem to have this trouble with browning chicken. I know, I crowded the pan. There's too much liquid. And once we do this, well, we will, oops, missed a little bit. There we go. We will get down to the rest of the prep work for some groundnut stew for Jamie. There we go. That's a start at least. And one more piece. Oops, sorry about that. Did not mean to bump the camera like that. Okay. That, I guess, would be step one. Bookworm 73 picked up a Le Creuset egg skillet at a number 18 Le Creuset saucepan with a lid for $1 each. Oh man, both were in real good shape. Left a similar saucepan behind because the enamel was all chipped on the inside. And yeah, that's also the right thing to do. Chipped enamel on the inside, unfortunately, really is not. You really can't do too much with that. So yeah. You definitely made yourself quite a bit of a score there, and again, I can only congratulate you on that. Okay, so that's the first step. Now from here, let us start with our aromatics, which would be some onions, and then from there, we've got some ginger and garlic. Let me see. I think we can start from there. Yeah, that's right. Okay, good. We will start here. Let's cook these things up, and then from there we will move on to all those potatoes and other veggies. Oh yeah, I do love the smell of garlic in the morning or evening or pretty much any other time, and especially when you combine it with ginger. That is certainly worth it. All right, yeah, bookworm, way to go. But anyway, yeah, I will do my best to try to film some video of the Madison Antique Week. So, because yeah, I do want to put something up here on YouTube for that, just to give an idea of how things are going there. And I do have a very small wish list that who knows I may be able to find. And although I'm thinking more likely I'll end up with something that I may not expect, because of course that's the best thing about about the hunt. I've said a few times before that I am looking for a BSR Red Mountain Dutch oven, and I can only hope that I find something like that there. It does not need the lid, or even less likely, but who knows, the BSR 13-inch Red Mountain Camp Oven or Spider. But failing that, well, There are a lot of interesting pieces out there, and I may end up succumbing to temptation and see what we come up with. Of course, in addition, there's still the excuse as well. Oh, gee, we've got Christmas shopping to do. At this point, I do have to say my family and friends, however, tell me that I apply them with so much cast iron that no, they do not want any more cast iron for Christmas. So I am going to have to abide by their wishes. Or maybe get some new friends. Or who knows? That's been suggested that I do like a lottery or a giveaway or something here on this channel. So there's an excuse. Considering I already have some extra pieces, I'm definitely taking that in mind, and I'm thinking I am indeed going to be considering that very shortly. This one dealer at the flea market either doesn't know what he has or doesn't care, but it's in my favor. Yeah, I know that feeling too. At a flea market, that's only about a couple of blocks or so for me. There's one dealer there who sells cheap kitchenware, and while he does recognize names like Wagner, of course, a lot of names seem to have escaped him, because it was there that I found a Wappick number 12 for $3. I don't think it could ever get a score like that ever again, but I was very happy to do so nonetheless. I ended up trading that number 12 Wappick, and I got a BSR number 12 because I was more interested in that. And then later, after a couple of years, I ended up selling the BSR number 12 on Iron Man auctions. It really, it depends on your taste as well as your need. I actually found out that I had very little need for a number 12 cast iron skillet. Why? Because I already have a number 14, which I've already taken out enough times. And between my all too many number 8s and a few number 10s, that is really, it seems like, pretty much what I need for cast iron skillets. So I'm quite happy with that. And what else do we have here? And this summer scored number 12 Griswold skillet for $20. Oh man, Dos Vasco's Farms. I do hope you are using it and also displaying it proudly, because it's certainly worth it. Congratulations for that. Yeah, going to Brimfield each year has been a lot of fun, and I'm still looking forward to going there in a couple of weeks as well. Because not just, well, a lot of it, of course, is for the sightseeing, as I mentioned. A lot of the cast iron that's there is stuff that I can't afford, but I like seeing it in person and taking pictures and displaying the pictures and the like, because that alone makes it fun. It's also fun, really, just going and hearing a lot of the gossip that goes around. Whenever you go to something like this, there's always gossip among the dealers. Usually it goes along the line of, oh man, I've had a terrible week. Things are so much better in the past. Yeah, I know. And we hear that again and again. I suppose it is true that the antiques may have been better in the past. But nonetheless, there's still a thriving market for them, especially in the past few years since this cast iron renaissance has taken place. Dos Vasco's Farms and an 11-inch Griswold flat griddle, $10. Oh man, sheesh. Keep going. I'm sure. Shit. Okay, now that we've done all that, I'm sorry. Okay, 1 second. Yes.
Now for the Emerald giveaway.
Yes.
Now this way everyone can be assured that's honest. You know what I mean? We're not using bias to pick somebody.
Well, no, that's
You
true.
all have your best cast iron finding stories. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure. Well, actually, no, it doesn't work. Maybe somebody hasn't bought cast iron.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
All right.
It's like maybe if you haven't if you haven't found good cast iron.
Never mind.
Okay.
I was gonna say, because then we could have the stories put up somewhere and everybody vote on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
true. And that way it's completely non-biased. But if somebody doesn't have a cool story like a find like that, they're not really eligible. I don't really want that. Everybody to be eligible.
Right. So.
All right. Well, I should have thought about that for a minute.
That's all right. Okay. Well, let's get going now and put some interesting stuff into the pot. The hard part is done. Now we get to the easy part. What we got here, again, are a whole bunch of potatoes. Red potatoes, which I was not expecting. I was expecting usually to do white potatoes, but red potatoes were on sale. And sweet potatoes, like I said, or yams. I still can't remember which is which. Yeah. Um, this, of course, is the filler, which nobody minds, at least when it's cooked correctly. Especially when we mix it in with that garlic and the garlic and the onions and the ginger. Here we go. This is pretty much your basic for any stew, but in Africa in particular, yams and sweet potatoes, my understanding, they are quite popular there. They also use a lot of curry there too, which I do believe we will be mixing in as well. Still, we are off to a decent start here because in addition to this, for our aromatics, we've got some peppers. Chopped green pepper. You can use any kind of pepper you want, of course. Groundnut stew is one of those dishes that has 1,000 different variations, and there's really no wrong way to make it as long as it turns out good. And this particular recipe I cobbled together, and I've been quite happy with it. And there's certainly going to be a lot of it here, no question about that, as well. And having done this, let's get the chicken back in. And those are our basics. Then after this, we can start flavoring it. Once we mix it all together, that is. Oh, yeah, this is going to be a nice big pot of stew, too. And, of course, Jamie is free to do what she wants with it. I mean, whether that means gorging on it, giving some to friends, or visitors, or both. And really, pretty much all I ask is that it be gone by the time I come back in the middle of next week. Still, we're off to a decent start right now, I certainly hope. And Papa Dan Bookworm, lightning got my computer last weekend. Ouch. My condolences. On a tiny phone screen. Eyes aren't what they used to be, so if I miss a comment, forgive me. Oh, my condolences, Papa Dan. Fluffy Otter, I have good cast iron story, but I'm going to save it for the future. We're looking forward to it. Andrew Bonificio, did we lose the feed? Well, I certainly hope not. I think that things seem to be going okay at this time. Anybody else, I guess? Andrew says he's having trouble with the feed. Is anybody else having trouble on their end? And I have feed, Andrew. Okay, well, that's good. And if you can get it on your phone, then I'd say at least we have a feed. Also, I made sure as well, you remember last Wednesday, there was this very poor quality picture. I made certain to update my laptop as best as I could. And I did another live cook on Friday, especially so that I could be, last Friday, especially so I could be sure that everything was working correctly here. So far, so good. All right. Then from here, now that we've gotten past all that, let me see. Okay, good. Now comes the fun part. Because now that we got all these all these vegetables in, now we get to add the spices, which means we're actually going to start with one interesting spice, and that would be peanut butter. And of course, I forgot my measuring cup. Give me 1 second, please. Yes? Inside the pan, inside the measuring cup. Oh, yeah, good idea, yes. No, you're right, You are right about that. As far as peanut butter is concerned, good idea. Let me very quickly grab. Here's the thing about peanut butter, as you know. Let's put in just a tiny little drop of oil. and spread that around. And that should help with doing the peanut butter. So from here, all right, there's half a cup. I think it's working. There we go, more or less. More or less. And then from here, another half cup coming up. Ah, yes. It was only a few years ago when I discovered peanut butter chicken. I had never even heard of it before I read about it on the internet. It must be true. I saw it on the internet. And so I had to give it a try, especially when I found out how popular it is in many parts of the world, such as Africa. And believe me, I've enjoyed this. And so I have indeed made this several times since then. And it's, as I mentioned already, it's one of those things that, yes, despite all this prep work, it's certainly one of the things that any family can do. And I would highly encourage it, especially if you're interested in trying something different, but not too different. Maybe some kids may shy away with the idea of peanut butter and chicken. But if anybody's adventurous, you will find that it is certainly worth it. Then from here, we get to the next ingredient. And now that we have done a cup of peanut butter, next up, we got a cup of peanuts. Fortunately, I don't have to dip the scoop in the peanuts for that. Also, it's not like I have to carefully top it off. There we go. There's a little. There we go. A little bit more. And we will get rid of these things as well. There we go. So, peanuts and peanut butter. This is definitely going to be peanutty chicken. That in the sink. Cover up the peanut butter so there is no mistake. And attempt to give this thing a decent mix, if at all possible. And meanwhile, we've got $39 Lodge enamel at TJ Maxx. Love it. Use it for almost everything. Yes, I have seen it there. TJ Maxx is one of the best places to go, really, if you want to look for brand new cast iron. Their selection can be questionable because usually they've got a small selection of cast iron, and it does change from time to time, which of course is their intention. But nonetheless, some regular mainstream pieces can often or even usually be found at TJ Maxx and Marshalls. I mean, especially if you are out to get yourself your first cast iron skillet, for instance, I would indeed highly recommend looking in Marshalls for a Lodge 10-inch skillet because you're usually likely to find one, except during Christmas, as I found out. Last couple of years, I've looked specifically for a Lodge 10-inch skillet around Christmas time, and nobody has had it. It seems to sell out completely. We're talking like at Walmart, Target, TJ Maxx. Nobody seems to have the Lodge 10-inch skillet, even though they certainly do have 10-inch skillets from Asian manufacturers. So, enamel, good for vegetarian friends, tomatoes, etc., which is what we're going to be doing right here, in fact. Now that I've thrown in the peanut butter, from here, have I missed anything? 2 cups peanut butter. Oh, yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, I have. I missed one important part. And that means I better quickly grab the can opener, because now that we're done with all of these dry ingredients, it's time to start putting in some wet ingredients. And that would include a container of tomatoes. So, as you said already, enamel cast iron. That's one reason why I'm making this enamel cast iron, because we are doing this. Okay, now here's the other thing. I know one of my more popular videos has been to do the can, put the can opener on the top. Let me move the camera over for a second. Because I have actually done this several times, and yes, it really does work too. You put the can opener on the top, you've got the edge part on the outside, the cutting part on the outside, and you squeeze it and just simply turn. And the end result, voila! Lo and behold, you've got yourself a completely open can. Yeah, by the way, look at it's interesting what it did to the rim, though, nonetheless. Okay, having done that, let's get back here and add our tomatoes. Plop. There we go. Now things are going to start getting wet, which is, of course, what we want, because this is, after all, a stew. So we're starting with the tomatoes. Happens every time. Because I'm so clumsy. There we go. Always make a mess. Ooh, that's already tasting pretty good, though. I will say that. Next ingredient, now that we've gone through all of that. Okay, let me, coriander, chili, curry. Got it. Okay, one quick second again. And I'm very sorry for the delays here, folks. As I mentioned, I was running behind. So unfortunately, I've had to do a few things, like I've not yet, unfortunately, gotten my spices out, but I'm working on that as fast as I can. Coriander, curry. And the last one was, okay, good. There we are. Now we've got some basic spices here, at least basic as far as African dishes go, because now that we've done this, we start mixing in our spices, and that would be about a tablespoon of coriander. Let me see if I can do this without really overdoing it. Although coriander is a fairly mild spice, it's not like it's going to overpower the dish. There we go. Not so much as our next ingredient. No, I'm wrong. Our next ingredient as well is chili powder. And no, there is not going to be 5,000 spices in this. This should be enough. Chili powder. And then finally, to top all that off, this is the one we got to be careful about. It's one everybody's favorite, but this can overpower a dish. And that would be curry. The savory, sweet scent and taste of curry. There we go. Having done all that, I can definitely smell it already too. There's no denying that. So let's see what we can do to mix all this around, in particular from the bottom to the top. And meanwhile, while we're waiting, I have some enamel cast iron from Big Lots. You have to check for chips. Well, there is that, yes. That's what we get for shopping at those discount stores. However, if you're lucky, you can still make yourself a nice score even there. So,
You use beef liquor swearing?
I'm sorry?
You use beef liquor to swear?
Fortunately, no.
Oh,
Yeah. Jimmy Langford was in an antique shop, and they had 50% off in the whole store last month. I found 2 Wagner Sidney O. Jr. tea-sized crusty corn cob pans. Well, there you go. And as you said already, you never know when you are going to find a decent score there. And Nordic ware is really nice. I've collected a bit of that as well, but sadly have to pass on a lot. Well, yeah, part of that is, of course, again, there's only so much room in your kitchen. I've no doubt about that. And believe me, that's something I have to be considerate about as well, especially when I go to places like Antique Week. I wonder if these stores get the ones that are considered imperfect. I have seen large seconds on sale at TJ Maxx, yes. But as far as those are concerned, large seconds, as anybody who has bought those knows, I would not hesitate for a second to buy a large second. Typically, what they mean by seconds is that it doesn't quite pass their quality control standards, but it's still certainly good enough. And so, with a large second, a lot of times you may find that the seasoning may be flaking off already, or perhaps in some rare instances, it might even be a tiny, tiny little pinhole-sized dimple or pit somewhere on the pan. As long as it doesn't go completely through the pan, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. And depending on whether you're really going to get a lot of use out of it or not, that certainly should not dissuade you from getting a second. I will certainly say that. So, yeah. Yes, hello, Paul Calabrese. Yep, we are making African groundnut stew once again, especially so that we'll have enough here to last for several days. And from the looks of it, I think we will. Now that we've gotten past those spices, okay, one last thing, and that is actually another secret ingredient, and that's just a little bit of molasses. That gives it something like yep, the savory, sweet taste of molasses. There we go. And I like to think that's something of a unique ingredient, but I have really liked what this thing does with this particular dish here. And as such, if anybody considers making it, I do hope you consider using ingredients like that. And with this, all we really need to do is fill it up, and we are good to go. We are ready to top this off. So, that's the other thing. As I said, I was so unprepared tonight, I did not even prepare it in advance, and no such broth, so we'll have to manage with water, unfortunately, but that's all right. We will get this thing going one way or another. And while we are waiting, let's see what else we have there. I should indeed make this nice and hot. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Pidgorn. I bought some molasses when it was on sale. I didn't know what to use it for. There are quite a few things to use molasses for. Of course, I'm a little biased because I am a New Englander. However, my favorite thing for using molasses for is Boston baked beans. And if you have never made Boston baked beans, again, I really, really encourage you to do so. And there we go. That should be about enough. Let's make sure there are no air pockets underneath. And I do believe we are good. Now, this doesn't look very promising at first, but even in about an hour or an hour and a half or even 2 hours or so, actually about an hour and a half. After an hour and a half, the sweet potatoes start to turn into mush. So I would not really recommend doing this for more than an hour and a half. But until then, all we need to do now is cover it. And we are going to have ourselves some peanut butter chicken to last for several days. Hot water from the tap. In this case, yes. My hot water happens to get really, really hot, scalding hot easily. I don't know if it's actually boiling, but it feels like it gets pretty close. So The recipe technically calls for chicken broth, but there's really no reason not to use. You can indeed use water in a pinch, and I have no problem at all with that. Nonetheless, as I mentioned already, finally getting back down to business here. The whole point, of course, is that the hunt is always, really something that I encourage everybody to go on because it is so much fun. Really, I have seen posts on the Cast Iron Cooking Group and other places from people, who do complain that, I've been looking for a long time and I've never really made that great score. That's one reason why the best thing to do is to have fun during the hunt. I mean, really, just searching for cast iron in itself can be a lot of fun, and that's what I intend on doing right now. As I mentioned, I'm going to be browsing through upstate New York. I expect to really not come home with very much, if anything at all. Well, no, I hope I do come home with something, at least get something for my troubles here, even though I have no idea what it's going to be. And also, no matter where you are in the country, it seems like there is some kind of place to go, especially to get antique cast iron. Like, for instance, here in the north, as I mentioned already, I'm going to the Madison Antique Week, and I'm going to the Brimfield Fair in a couple of weeks. Down south, of course, you folks have your highway yard sales, and I'm very envious of those, actually. Yeah, imagine spending your whole day riding up and down one of those long side highways, not a main highway, but a side highway where where every so often you come across another yard sale and people doing and selling all kinds of things. I've seen a number of posts from people who have made some really great cast iron scores at places like the world's longest yard sale or the 127 yard sale or the route, I forget which yard sale. So, and that the point of that, of course, is that it's the actual hunting really that's where you get a lot of fun. I mean, yes, finding a great score is a great reward, and that really makes the whole thing worthwhile. But really, the main point is to have fun. In that, I am going out on this road trip this weekend, really as an excuse to go on a road trip. I'm looking forward to driving and listening to music as I drive and seeing the sights and maybe hopefully trying some local food and who knows, meeting someone. I don't know. It depends on what happens. No, not that kind of meeting someone. I meant just, just encountering some interesting people, especially since you never know, again, what you're going to come across, not just in the case of finding cast iron either. For instance, along Route 17, somewhere between Binghamton and New York. So we're talking mostly southeastern New York. There is one particular city I think it's called Nunbush. And for the past couple of decades or so, that town has transformed itself into a UFO tourist trap, in that they actually have a UFO museum and a whole bunch of restaurants and, and of course, other goodie stores and the like, all with an alien theme. And I have yet to visit that town, and maybe I might end up going that way and spending a few hours just roaming around town. Or, as I mentioned already, I'm going to be starting down south of Buffalo and making my way back down Route 17. And there are a number of really interesting sites along that road that I'm looking forward to. There's the Seneca Indian Nation, for instance. Besides their casinos, they're also famous, of course, for selling cigarettes at dirt cheap prices. In fact, lower than what you usually find pretty much anywhere else in the country. I don't smoke, but I do have several friends who do. And here in Massachusetts, menthol cigarettes have been banned for about the last year or year and a half or so. They passed that ban especially as a way to encourage people to stop smoking. I don't know how well that's done. They also, unfortunately, put a ban on vaping stuff, which is kind of really going in the opposite direction. But nonetheless, that means if I were to go to Seneca Nation and pick up a couple of cheap cartons of menthol cigarettes, well, who knows? I could present. Yeah, throwing myself under the bus. Well, hey, I am not doing anything illegal yet. And if I were to do something illegal, well, I may be dumb, but I'm not that dumb that I would admit to it here on YouTube Live, with who knows how many people watching, mind you. Yeah. Did they have sightings there? It's hard to say. Of course, it's between Binghamton and New York City. Who knows what the folks are like there? And also down Route 17, one place I'm looking forward to stopping by is the Cuba Cheese Shop in the town of Cuba, New York. That place in particular, you know, they're one of those companies that's been for the last decades, if not more, several decades, they make their own cheese and they become very, very famous. And to my money, that's some of the best cheese I have ever encountered in my life. And I'm definitely looking forward to stocking up on some of that cheese. It's like I went there and I found myself scarfing down a half-pound block of their smoked Gouda without even realizing it. So it was indeed that Gouda. and so on. Yes, and there are antique shops as well along the way. A number of towns, of course, to try to promote the local antique shops. And you've got these signs on the highway. If you somewhere along the line, in fact, if you pull off of Route 17, and then head just barely south past the Pennsylvania border, there's another site that I think a lot of cooks here, maybe even here, might be interested in, and that would be the Case Knives Museum. It seems, yeah, I mean, those who know vintage knives, they know about Case Knives, and Case Knives are in fact still in business. They were bought out by, of all companies, Zippo Lighters. And so they actually have this museum / tourist trap just south of the New York border in northern Pennsylvania, and then that is the Zippo Case Museum, where you get to see a lot of vintage lighters and a lot of vintage case knives and a lot of photos and other things. And of course, you get to buy all kinds of memorabilia, including genuine case knives. You want to get yourself a modern case chef's knife, for instance, you can get it there. How far am I from the New York Antique Show? I am in mid-state Massachusetts, and according to Google Maps, I Googled it, I am about maybe a 4 to 5 hour drive from Syracuse. So my plan is to head out on Friday night, or Friday evening rather, after work, book myself up a cheap motel in the area. And yeah, I know I've already booked it, so don't worry, I'm not worried about it being sold out. And head out there on Saturday morning so that I can beat some of the crowds at least, and get some semi-decent parking, and spend at least several hours browsing all of the things to be seen there at Antique Week. I'm sure folks have seen my video on when I went to Brimfield, and I take that lesson to heart. My lesson was that for that video, I got to Brimfield at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was absolutely worth it because, again, I beat most of the rush, got some parking, and was actually able to browse because some of those vendors, they open up pretty much at the crack of dawn. Well, that's because they know that there are people there at the crack of dawn. You know, it's like a give and take here. They open up at the crack of dawn because there are people there at the crack of dawn, because there are vendors there at the crack of dawn. Peg Tooth. Hi, Papa. Looks like Peg Tooth showed up, and and as always, we're glad to see you here tonight. About 3 hours from me, there's a town called Vulcan, and yes, the whole town is spaceship themed and Star Trek themed. Leonard Nimoy's Andre cast in bronze there. Leonard Nimoy is cast in bronze there. Well, that would be an interesting sight to see one of these days. Leonard Nimoy actually grew up here in Boston before going out and becoming an actor. And I know that because the Boston Museum of Science has a long-running little short film showing off the wonders of Boston, and there's always this background cue that says, Okay, Q left speaker, Q right speaker, Q Leonard Nimoy, and then you hear his voice, a Muga Omni Theater production. Hey, what's with Leonard Nimoy? He grew up 3 blocks from here. So yeah, yeah, Leonard Nimoy is one of our heroes too. He was one of my heroes too, and you could say that about any Trekkie, of course. Nonetheless, we've gotten this far at this point. As I mentioned already, unfortunately, this is definitely not going to be finished in time. I'm sorry to say for the end of this video, because as I mentioned, it would probably take a total of at least an hour and a half. And I don't think it's been maybe 15 minutes at most, probably less than that, in fact, since I put the cover on this. So that means about in at least another hour and 15 minutes. So we're talking like probably close to 10:30. This is going to be done, unfortunately. But nonetheless, well, really the point of this video has been just that, as I mentioned, doing a little bit of talking about the hunt and looking forward to what's going to be happening when I go out. And I do certainly indeed love hearing about your cast iron scores. So thank you very much for posting them. And you never know, folks. I guess that's the thing, is that it can indeed happen to you. And if you look long enough, it will happen to you. It's not as rare as winning the lottery. If you keep your eyes open, you never know where you might find maybe that piece of cast iron that you've really been looking for and you're going to cherish for, well, the rest of your life. You might find it in a junkyard. It might be gifted to you from your Aunt Reba or something when she passes on. You might find it at an estate sale or an antique mall or a flea market or an antique fair, such as, well, again, such as Antique Week or Brimfield, or the 127 yard sale, or on the side of the road. This has happened. People have actually found cast iron pans just lying there on the side of the road. I've got this huge Asian-made pot that about 2 years ago, I found it lying in the street. That was when trash day had taken place, and evidently the trash people, I guess, decided not to take that particular pot. And I have seen that pot, as I mentioned, it's Asian made, yes, but of course, eBay sellers try to sell things like that. And I have seen that thing selling on eBay with a price of anywhere between like maybe $150 to $200. I doubt anybody will pay that much for it, and I hope they don't. But I'm certainly not complaining that I got myself a nice big cast iron pot for free there. And William Hurt, and good luck, and good luck to everybody else too. Really, I'd say at this point, are you going to be back from the road trip by next cast iron Wednesday? You know, I'm actually not sure yet. I'm maybe if my schedule, if I stick to the schedule I've set for myself, I'm going to probably end up visiting my friends in Oneonta, New York, by next Tuesday and probably Wednesday. If that's the case, well, I may just very well have to do cast iron Wednesday from the road. But I do intend still on doing it. I have sometimes had to postpone this, but that was really because there was no other choice. However, I may very well be able to get this done, especially since I do know that my friends do indeed have some nice cast iron, and it'll also give me a chance as well to get a new point of view from from some folks who have not yet made a live appearance on this channel. So I would say that unless barring the absolute worst, and I have no intention of that happening, there will indeed be another broadcast next Wednesday. As such, cast iron field trip would be fun. Yeah, well, I encourage everybody to do it as well. But one last thing, don't forget, nonetheless, welcome to the real world. Be careful, everybody. I will say that when I go to the Antique Week, I am indeed going to be wearing my mask. And I'm still going to be careful. Because things are starting to get bad once again, as we've heard. And all I can ask in that case is that everybody be careful. And yes, I will say it. Get your shots. If you have not done so, do it. You know, they're free. and they're meant to save your life. That is something I'm going to put my foot down. I've already argued about that on some of my videos, and I will continue to argue it, because really this is meant to save lives. It is not some conspiracy. It is not some idea to manufacture a pandemic. No, I do not subscribe to that. And I would honestly say anybody who subscribes to that, I do not want to have any kind of a rational discussion with you, because you will not give a rational discussion. But meanwhile, cooking on your engine block, who knows? Well, we can only see what happens. Although I've got a pretty small car, so maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll fry an egg in a number 3 or something. But we will see what happens next week. But nonetheless, I can only thank everybody, as always, for showing up. And I guess all I could say at this point is thank you once again, everybody. Oh, and I noticed this is starting to boil, so let's do one last look, and then I think we'll be all set. Wash yourself there. Yeah, I'd say we're off to a decent start. All we have to do is let this thing go now for maybe about another hour and 15 minutes. And other than that, okay, yeah. My mother-in-law, who is in her mid-70s, called me recalcitrant. Yeah, because I did not get my shots yet. Yes, I will indeed say that. Get your shots. And having said all that, well, there's really not much else to say other than, as I said, thank you very much, everybody. And I will, one way or another, see you next Wednesday.